Last night, this was close. Speaking of votes on the House floor, this one was close, just a couple of votes over the hurdle that they needed. The House did pass, ultimately, this measure now to increase the stimulus payments to individuals from $600, which was in the bill that passed last week and that the president ultimately signed, to $2,000, which is what the president says he wants. A number of Republicans followed along with the president. They got just over that two-thirds hurdle. That means this goes to the Senate now. It's not at all clear what's going to happen in the United States Senate at this point. We do expect that Chuck Schumer is going to try, the Democratic leader in the Senate is going to try to take up this vote today. Any Republican could block it. It's going to put the Republicans now in an awkward position of blocking a measure that the president of their own party says he supports, and a number of their Republican colleagues in the House went for. So we're going to see whether they even bother to take it up. But at some point, they're going to have to block Chuck Schumer if that's the road they decide to go down, instead of just simply throwing up their hands and voting for the $2,000 checks. Interestingly, the House bill would give $2,000 to adults and to children and adult dependents. That's a little bit more generous than what we were expecting. So that's something to watch for, as well as Republicans are looking at their concerns about the overall deficit here. It's $464 billion bill. Meanwhile, in the House, they also voted to override the president's veto on the defense bill. We'll see if the Senate can do the same thing today. Senator Bernie Sanders is going to try to link the two at some point here and say you don't get to vote on the defense bill unless you vote on the $2,000 check. So all of that is up in the air. Very unclear, Joe, now where it's going to go at this point. So for investors, the one thing you know for sure is that Treasury is suggesting that they think that they can get the $600 checks out into the economy as early as this week. And then if there's a $2,000 check behind that, that's going to have to go separately, depending on what Congress does here. Treasury doesn't look like they'll be able to process that as quickly as the $600 piece, which they've been expecting now for some time. Joe.
You know, the op-ed pages in the Journal have not always been the president's favorite, but this scathing today. Trump gives Schumer an assist. The president writes a $2,000 check to make Democrats the majority, talking all about how this could backfire in Georgia. Mr. Trump's narcissism isn't news, but if Republicans lose the Georgia seats and the majority, Republicans across the country can thank Mr. Trump for their 2021 tax increase. So they're not. Yeah, look,
how are those two Georgia Republicans going to vote on this? This puts them in a tough box, right? So that's one of the political questions here. And the fascinating sort of ideological question here is, the president has not always been sort of a traditional conservative. He's more of a populist conservative, and things like giving checks to people in a pandemic, that appeals to that populist conservative side of this president. It's something that Republicans on the Hill, though, don't necessarily embrace. And there's a dividing line there. And this president's not up for re-election anymore, right?
No.
He's already lost. So he has nothing to lose here.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.